There's a moment, not marked by ceremony or fanfare, when the rhythm of life begins to slow, not out of decline, but out of a deep and deliberate turning inward. It is not always visible to others, but to the soul, it is unmistakable. A silence begins to bloom. A door, long buried under busyness, begins to creak open. And in that hush, you begin to feel things that used to be drowned out. Time becomes different here, not faster, not slower, but deeper. There's no announcement when that shift arrives. No bell ringing, no parade. It simply begins. One morning, you wake without the sound of alarm clocks or inboxes waiting. You sit in your kitchen with light coming in at a different angle, and you realize you're no longer moving in the world's rhythm, but in your own. And that is a kind of liberation no one tells you how to hold. I didn't know, back then, what would matter most in this season. Retirement, to the outside world, is often spoken of as a reward. Freedom, leisure, the long-awaited vacation of life. But what I wish someone had told me was that it's also a reckoning, a shedding, a re-seeing of all the things you once thought were permanent. There's a subtle ache in stepping out of roles you've worn for decades that don't fall away like coats. They linger like shadows, softening over time, but never quite disappearing. You begin to realize how much of your identity was tied not to who you are, but to what you did. And when that's gone, you meet yourself again, sometimes gently, sometimes like a stranger in your own home. There's a woman I met at 71. Her name was Jean. She had once been a nurse for nearly 4 decades. Strong, dependable, always in motion. She told me, with a soft laugh, that when she retired, she thought she'd just keep doing, just in a different shape, trips, volunteering, fixing up the house. But then one morning, a month into her new free life, she sat down in her kitchen, mid-morning light touching the worn table she'd had since the 80s, and cried for no reason she could explain. It wasn't sadness, she said. It was something else. Something I hadn't had time to feel until then. And that was when it began for her. The second life. The one that doesn't live on calendars. It's strange, isn't it? How much we confuse activity with meaning. We fill the spaces, so we don't have to feel the weight of them. But once you stop, once the pace softens, you begin to hear things. Old memories tapping at the windows. Unspoken longings drifting in like dusk. Questions you never let yourself ask. And there you are, just you and a life you built, sitting across from each other in the quiet. I understood her more than I admitted, because I, too, thought I knew what retirement would be. But there are things a body only learns in stillness, and the heart only understands in silence. What I know now, what I wish I had known before I stepped into this quiet meadow of years, are things you don't find in pamphlets or financial plans. They live in the marrow. They whisper through the trees, and they come not all at once, but slowly as the old identity dissolves, and something more mysterious takes its place. I wish I had known that freedom is not always easy. It sounds like a gift, and it is, but it also removes the walls that once gave us shape. There's a grief in waking up and not being urgently needed. There's an ache in letting go of the rhythms that once gave your life definition, even the ones you complained about. I didn't know how loud the silence would feel, or how unfamiliar I would be to myself. I wish I had known that this, too, is normal, that it is not a failure to feel lost, but a beginning, because the life of the soul rarely begins at the top of the mountain. It begins in the valley where the noise dies down and the breath slows and the questions come home. Jean told me one morning over tea, retirement felt like I was walking into a room full of myself, only I didn't recognize her yet. I know that room now. I know the echoes. I know the way the light lands on old memories. And I have come to see that the life we thought we were leaving behind was never the whole of who we are. I wish I had known that relationships change after retirement in quiet, unexpected ways. The colleague you shared laughter with vanishes like a ghost. The social swirl settles. Friends drift. Some grow closer. Others dissolve gently, like fog. Even marriage, if you're in one, shifts. 2 people who once sat hours apart now sit together in long stretches of open time. That can be beautiful, or difficult, or both. Sometimes you rediscover one another in the space. Sometimes you feel the unfamiliarity that was hidden by years of schedules. And no one really prepares you for that, for the awkwardness of stillness, for the rediscovery of the person across the room, and of yourself. I wish I had known that joy in the season is not loud. It doesn't dance with trumpets. It arrives quietly, in the first sip of morning coffee, when no one needs you, in a walk with no destination, in a rediscovery of your own thoughts, uninterrupted. There's something sacred about being free from proving, something exquisite about no longer having to perform. But it takes time to trust that you're still worthy when no one is clapping, to trust that your presence, not your productivity, is your offering. I wish I had known that memories would come back differently, not just the ones I expected, holidays, milestones, but odd ones, small ones, the sound of a screen door slamming shut in summer, the way my father's coat smelled after rain, moments that rise like bubbles, unasked for, and sometimes they break your heart with how vivid they still are. I used to push them aside. Now, I let them in. They are not distractions. They are visitations. And they mean I'm still very much alive. Sometimes they come with laughter. Other times, with tears I didn't know were waiting. But either way, I let them move through me now. They are not burdens. They are lanterns. I wish I had known that you cannot heal all the regrets. And that's okay. Some things will always feel unfinished. Some doors stay closed. But you learn to live beside those doors, to make a home with them, to tend a small garden just outside. And in time, the pain becomes part of beauty, not by vanishing, but by softening. It's a strange mercy. How age does this. Round to corners of old pain, adds warmth to even the mistakes. And with time, even grief becomes a kind of grace. I wish I had known how deeply I would come to appreciate slowness, not the kind that frustrates, but the kind that frees. I used to rush through meals. Now, I notice the texture of each bite. I used to skim conversations. Now, I lean into the pauses between words. I used to fill the empty space. Now, I treasure it, as if something holy lives there. And maybe it does. Maybe God speaks clearest in the places we stop trying to speak over. I wish I had known that purpose does not end when work ends. It just changes shape. You begin to find it in the smallest gestures, in writing letters, in tending a plant, in watching the sky change and feeling, somehow, part of something much older than yourself. Jean once told me, the purpose now is presence. And I carry that like a stone in my pocket. Smooth, quiet, grounding. There is no single truth about retirement, no right way to walk this path. But I have come to see it as an unlearning and a return to who we were before the world told us who to be, a return to the self beneath all the roles, and perhaps a return to something even older than that, a kind of stillness that was always waiting for us, just beyond the noise. So if you are here, somewhere in the middle of this strange, tender season, or just begin to step into it, know this: you are not behind. You are not doing it wrong. You are simply arriving, again and again, in softer and deeper ways. Let yourself unfold slowly. Let the mornings come without agenda. Let the afternoons be wrapped in silence. Let the evenings be lit by nothing but memory and candlelight. And if the world forgets to applaud you, clap softly for yourself, for the courage to rest, for the wisdom to feel, for the art of being without always becoming. I don't wish I had done it all perfectly. I only wish I had trusted the slowness sooner. I only wish I had known that the soul doesn't retire. It begins again in quieter ways. So here's to the next breath, the next soft smile, the next gentle moment of knowing that you are exactly where your life has led you. And it is enough. It has always been enough. And if today feels empty, let it be spacious. If it feels uncertain, let it be sacred. If it feels quiet, listen closely. Something is blooming here, even if only you can feel it. Stay with it. Walk slowly. And when the light changes, let it fall gently on your hands. The same hand that held so much, and now, simply rest.